Now the main event, or one of them, opening the gates. Gate is slowly regaining its power as a small incognito guerrilla gate agent. Gate is slowly regaining its power as small incognito guerrilla gate agents gather in Nibu and Haven. With all the political strife taking place in Nibu, it was only a matter of time before someone needed to be rescued. As a gate agent or ally of Nibu, you assist in getting a Nebi scientist safely to where they need to go. This is an escort mission. So, this event are for players who wanted to ally with Gate and assist Ninja Bello. And a lot of people took this because they align their characters' beliefs, values with Gate and or Haven Guard, who are forming an alliance. And it was the turnout was amazing, and that's what created that big battle against Nox and the Nebi. So what we have here is Haven Guard and the Gate agents and Gate Center uniting, and they form Haven Guard. It just sounds perfect, right? It starts off with Tempus. We see in a town, like I said, incognito, and they're kind of staking out until Jarrett and Jacob Bastion can come get them out of there. And Jarrett has been working on a mobile base called Haven Gate. And he kind of hints toward it like, hey, that thing that I said I was going to make, I made it. And Tempus was excited to see it when he first laid eyes upon when it appeared. But while Tempus is hiding out, you see that he has all of his agents with him, just a few, because Gate agents, they originated in Haven, but then there was a branch that was set up over in Nibu. Why? Because Tempus actually was allies with Nibu. Why? Because of his relationship with Makai Funuichi, who is the Beast King, and Serenity is his daughter. And while Makai was dead and dealing with the Void and Ivan Bakara and dealing with his own arc, Tempus was looking out for Makai's daughter in his absence, and he was an instrument in helping her get her position to lead Nibu in Makai's absence. Nibu, they respect Tempus in the Gate Center. So he had a gate branch erected in Nibu, and that's where you have O'Glaren and Vimius. So O'Glaren and Vimius, these are soldiers that were over in Nibu under Gate, holding things down. Vimius is like the taskmaster. He's like pretty much their blacksmith. Let me bring up Vimius because his character is really interesting. I like Vimius, not just because he's a Psyquadrian, but check this out. So Vimius has long purple hair, blue eyes, chiseled body, and black fur. He has weapon manipulation, combat prowess, and tactical analysis. So weapon manipulation is an interesting one. Vimius can create, summon, shape, manipulate, and use any kind of weapons with this perfect skill, whether pre-modern, modern, or even futuristic, using laser, plasma, antimatter, or even more exotic ammunition and attacks. If it is a weapon or could be improvised as one, he is completely proficient with it, which I thought was cool. He's a weapon master. In his bio, he says the first of his people that is standing against the tyrant anarchy through the might of Gate, he will be the one to stomp on the opposition. That sounds like a Smash Brothers intro. Fuck, Vimius stomps the competition. But I like Vimius, and I kind of made him the taskmaster because of his abilities. It seems only right that he would be the weapon master of Gate, at least in the Nebi branch. And then you have O'Glaren as well, who's an interesting character who actually has a relationship with Ninja Bello. He owes her, and they share history together because she, according to him, Ninja Bello actually rescued him from the Blood Vein Labs. So if you recall in the previous seasons, Makai Finoichi and the Roaring Dragons, they attacked Blood Vein Labs and stole all of their assets and technology. Blood Vein was a faction, and it is still a faction, but they were very bad. They were like the first bad guys back then. They're like the Team Rocket of the series. They were the first original bad guys, and Makai had some beef with them. And there was a part where they attacked their headquarters, and they had some G-types in there that were being experimented on, and some of them escaped. If you recall, there was a creature, a giant saber-tooth creature that had a golden pelt, and it escaped. It was let free. But O'Glaren, I kind of tied him to that by saying that he had some of the genetics, some of the DNA from that legendary creature that escaped, along with some other. Because in his submission, he said that he's mixed with a. Let me bring him up. O'Glaren is the first of his kind, a humanoid beast that has the shape of a Raelagarian, eyes of the Wardenaries. First off, I like how he combined two races, or pulled from two races. But he has the face of a blood liger, an augmented beast experimented by Bloodvein. And the first thing I thought of when I read that was that golden saber-tooth creature, that beast that was in the Bloodvein labs. I don't know if this player saw that or if he was alluding to that, but it was perfect. So I pretty much made that creature that I had created this particular blood liger. So it's a blood liger now, but he had the DNA of that. He wears baggy black pants, gauntlets on his wrists, and black combat boots. But, O'Glaren was one of the most prestigious experiments by the Bloodvein dynasty, where they wanted to augment two physical traits and two unique races that were known. Those traits were the muscular structure of Raelagarians and the unique night sight eyes of the Wardenaries. O'Glaren was mostly in chains that could keep him in place. The Gamma-Fiend because of his sheer power. Ninja Bello, being a geneticist in the Bloodvein research camps, would often talk to O'Glaren about finding a way to set him free. Fortunately, a few days later, the Roaring Dragons were blowing through Bloodvein science labs, which gave Ninja the opportunity to set O'Glaren free. Many things have happened since then, but O'Glaren gets word that Ninja may be in trouble. He springs into action. So that's his bio for his character. This is his character's first episode, and he's coming to save Ninja. And it all kind of went together. So that's why we see O'Glaren in there going hard in the paint. But Haven Guard, there was a fight between them, and Jason Hunter was giving them some competition. O'Glaren, if I recall, O'Glaren was eventually what's that word? He was eventually neutralized. And that was one part of opening the gates. But then there was the other part where we have Marshall and Looper floating on the island, floating in the middle of the ocean, picking up where we left off. This was a perfect opportunity to introduce King Obadiah of the Azorians and his people, Nanan Glenivere. Glenshire, known in Glenshire. So when we have, these characters in the middle of the ocean, it only makes sense to bring in King Obadiah. So King Obadiah ends up pulling them into his kingdom. And the way he's looking at it is they have an issue. There's something going on with the planet, warming up the water. The core of the planet is warming up, and we learn later on that this is because of what the Necrofiends are doing. They have a G-type who's capable of moving the planet. He's in the process of moving the planet out of the way of the Virgin Tears. And this is and his name is I can't recall his name right now, but Kogan, I think. And in turn, this affects the Azorians, and I made that the reason as to why King Obadiah gets involved. And he's thinking that Looper and Marshall have something to do with it. He takes them prisoner. Meanwhile, Nonan is a scientist, and he's a very intelligent scientist, and he works for King Obadiah. And if you recall, when Ivan fought Marshall on that boat, when they took the fist, Ivan poisoned him. And that was actually something that Ivan wanted to do, and because they were successful, it happened. But Ivan poisoned him. So when Nonan found Marshall and Looper, if you remember, Marshall fell over. When they were being sucked into the water, he fell over. He couldn't tell what was happening to him. That's because the toxic, the poison, the lethal poison started to take effect. So Nonan discovers Marshall, and he's able to treat the poison. However, a side effect of that is that Marshall now has blue skin. If he wants to keep the blue skin, cool. If he doesn't, he'll probably have it for a little bit longer. It's just a narrative side effect. I want you to be able to say, hey, remember when I had blue skin? Because you were saved. So that was just a side effect of being saved. So you'll just have blue skin for a little bit. I would prefer you find someone who can, if you don't want the blue skin, work with someone who can help, who can fix that cosmetic portion of you. Just give you something to do for a story phase, maybe. An opportunity to kind of make something funny or interesting and build off of that. That's what it's all for. But you have blue skin now because Nonan fixed you up, and Nonan can manipulate evolution. And his reason for you saying the reason that you're blue is because based off of your mutation, if you were, maybe 200 years from now, you were going to turn blue anyway. And that's pretty much what he was saying. You've just been evolved in order to overcome the toxicity in your blood. I also knew that Looper had taken the Horseman event. So the reason that you were pulled into King Obadiah as opposed to just going straight to meet up with Gate is because I needed a juncture. I needed the opportunity to take Looper away from Marshall. So I used this moment in time to have Looper and Marshall go separate ways, since Looper was going to be doing a totally different event. They treat Looper just like they treat Marshall. They evolve him, which is why he has perfect vision. He has perfect vision now, because they evolved his ordinary eyesight to bring his vision back, because his eyes were he was blinded when he fought Anarchy. And then we learned that Looper decided to, he was already pissed off, and he went back into loner mode, dealing with his own trials, dealing with his own demons. He just had enough, and he opted to go back to Haven. And we'll talk about that later. But Mima, the sexiest mouse, comes and she saves Marshall. So let's kind of dive into their submissions for that. He says, Looper and I are rescued by Mima. So that was actually in his submission. So he is planning on being rescued by Mima. We at Haven Guard breach as a team. During the breach, Marshall Mesa is downing a bottle of antitoxin and caffeinated energy drinks. Instead, I had Nonan fix you because that was his goal. Mesa shields Ninja and offers to memorize the formula. We didn't get that far because you already had so much going on. And so much was going on while you were still held captive, so we never got to that. And then we have... Yeah, so Mima comes. The Mimatron. Mima says, in my cool new Mimatron, which was created by Jarrett, it's a multi-platform motorcycle. She stated that she wanted to use the Mimatron to pick up Marshall, Mesa, and Looper. She then says she's going to convince the fish head king to help the Haven Guard because it would be beneficial, and which she did. And then she would come into the battlefield with Mimatron guns blazing. So we definitely did that. She came into the ocean with guns blazing to save Marshall and them. That whole fight scene with with Mima and King Obadiah, it had to happen because, you know, she's coming to rescue them, and they don't even know who the Azurians don't even know who Marshall is yet. So that's why they have him prisoner. And of course, they weren't just going to let someone come in and take him without a fight. So King Obadiah eventually neutralizes her, and then we use that as an opportunity for them to touch base and talk with each other, communicate. And that's when King Obadiah learns that they are the good guys and they are not responsible for what's happening with the planet. However, they have the resources to figure out what's happening with the planet between Haven Guard and Gate. One of them will be able to do it. And so King Obadiah, he lends his army to Haven Guard to assist with getting Tempus out of Nebu. He also happens, I guess he repaired Mimatron a bit, and they also take Looper home. Nonan, he says, this will be the only time I will be outside with the king, so I will be responsible to evolve Mesa and Looper past their small comings, which was the toxicity and the blindness. He then says, I will evolve Mesa past the poison problem, and I will evolve Looper past the blind problem. And he did. So they pick up Marshall and they go back to the battlefield. We'll get into Looper a bit later. We pick up Marshall, they take them back to the battlefield. So meanwhile, we're watching Hunter square off with O'Glaren and Vimius. So O'Glaren, what O'Glaren has here is O'Glaren will use his energy dash with his energy constructs like claws, swords, energy clones, and etc. To attack the enemy. We saw that. When Nindra and Tempus are spotted, they will be ergo-ported into Haven Gate base, keeping them completely concealed. O'Glaren will leap back into action. We saw that. He's teleporting people here and there onto the base, from the battlefield to the base. That's how Tempus and his daughter got onto the Haven Gate base safely. And then we have using energy dash and reappliance. He will absorb the blunt force of the attack and reapply it to his constructs to deal deadliest blows. And we saw him doing that as well when him and Vimius were fighting hand in hand. He was putting up shields while Vimius was able to strategize. Jacob Bastian and Jared arrive with this giant Haven Gate ship created by Jared. Jared says, I will use the superior builder ability to create a mobile base that will be for Haven Guard and Gate combined, that I will call Haven's Gate. This base will have a built-in medical center, science lab, combat training room, an operations center, equipment room, EMP cannons, an invisible mode that makes the mobile base undetectable, and mechs. Jared uses maximum intelligence to make this incredibly complex mobile base. With weapon proficiency he will use to take out his adversaries. Jacob says he will build up Haven Guard and recruit Human Blade to Haven Guard. I think Killjoy is Human Blade. The Haven Guard will breach into Nebu as a group. Jacob will lead the Haven Guard players, Human Blade, and an entire team of Haven Guard soldiers to escort the Nebi scientists back to Haven. Form an alliance with other heroes not in Haven Guard at the event to make sure this all works out. So in case there were any other players that would join that event that weren't actually part of Haven Guard, Jacob would ask them to join Haven Guard or Haven Gate. And all that came into fruition. There were some ups and downs, peaks and valleys, but the total result came true. The Human Blade, I think he also goes by Killjoy, and the reason I say that is he was the only person. I didn't see anyone named Human Blade, but I did see Killjoy, and he has his ability is called Airman Blade. Killjoy is that assassin that we saw when Jarrett first appeared. When Tempus and Chronicle were running through the alleyways with his daughter from the soldiers, Jarrett makes an explosive appearance, blows everything up, blows their assailants up, and Killjoy's laughing because Killjoy is an assassin with a holographic mask. Killjoy will use, and he has time manipulation with his sword. Killjoy will use his time slow with his spatial portion while assassinating the opposition in battle. We saw Killjoy utilized a lot by teleporting people and using time manipulation. With all the space-time distorted energy being absorbed into the Airman Blade, Killjoy will start to use his space-time distortion slicing, and for the last, he will teleport everyone out there and into the safety of Haven Gate's base, which we saw that as well. You know, there was even a part where Tempus and Killjoy squared off a bit because Chronicle thought they were enemies. Because Jacob is he looked kind of crazy when he approached Amelia. And we can assume that Chronicle, I guess, never saw Jacob or Killjoy. So he was defensive. And then Tempest called it off. Yeah. Let's touch on Ninja Bello again. Ninja Bello in this event, she said, "I will use my tactical analysis to figure out how to deal with people attacking, then use my genetic mastery to make the soldiers and whoever else is against my side immediately ill, while absorbing the biological structure of the Nox weapons to use later, making their weapons useless and making whichever G-type that's attacking Haven Guard have his or her own power work against them. Last but not least, the end of the Ender's mutagen will be used on a G-type that seeks to surprise attack Haven Guard or is too overwhelming to handle with our forces." I kept her out of all of that because it didn't come to that. I didn't want her to feel like she would need to use it on the likes of Nox. I didn't feel, because she says, you know, someone who's too overwhelming to handle. It was all of you against Nox, so that's why I didn't go overboard with that. So you still have the end of the Enders. Colonel Ty Lee is also an ally, obviously, of Haven Guard. We saw Colonel Ty Lee assist Haven Guard when they fought R-Type X in the forest. Colonel Ty Lee, I would distribute my trickster ability to throw the Nox operatives off while fighting the Haven Guard. So, you know, I pretty much used Colonel Ty Lee to support to come in and make clones to fend them off while Killjoy extracted everybody out there. Since I am a tactical genius, I will tell the others what points to attack and what points to defend. We can assume that Colonel Ty Lee was helping all of the Haven Guard soldiers fend off against the Nox and other soldiers. If you didn't imagine that, you can imagine it now that she had that Colonel Ty Lee had a big part in just the overall battle. And with my combat proficiency, I will completely destroy the Nox operatives with ease. You know, they had a lot of technology. That combat proficiency wasn't enough, and I kind of highlighted that even though she couldn't take them out with their bare hands, she was able to, or I don't know why I keep calling she, Colonel Ty Lee was able to utilize her trickster ability, which made them pretty much kill each other in addition to missing her. King Obadiah, my people will pick up Mesa and Looper, but just to see that they have been attacked, so that they can help Mesa and Looper instead of imprisonment. I will be convinced by the mouse, only because I am a man that has a heart. King Obadiah has a heart. So I will send my army to lend aid to Jacob. I myself will take on most of their troops. And we saw that when, Colonel Tylee was fending them off, getting tired. A giant tidal wave came with all of the Azurians, and King Obadiah came into the fray and said, we'll take care of this. You guys get out of here. For the first time ever, I actually had to exclude a player because I couldn't find a way to fit without making things complicated. There was actually a player by the name of Ardrek, who I believe is the son of the player of Makai Funuichi. And Ardrek, I couldn't find a way to fit him in because he's from Raylagar. He's the prestige of Raylagar, which is a totally another faction within Raylagar. Ardrek will swoop into the battle scene with high speeds with his Senrai armor to work in unison with Tylee and Killjoy by creating EMP weapons to shut down Nox machinery and electro nets to help them get away. With his advanced condition, he will be the most powerful force to take on the Nox operatives by creating melee weapons, energy blasters, and energy shield to fight and protect Tylee and Killjoy against the Nox operatives. And he would represent Raylagar's technological power and combat power in the best way. He'll protect Tempus and Nindra. With his technological variety of weapons, he will have an answer for everything. But more so, it was pretty much his origin. So Ardrek is fairly dark skinned. He has long burgundy hair, silver eyes, and wears black Raylagarian combat suit that have white symbols that represent his achievements. Ardrek is pretty cool when in social environments, but in the heat of battle, he shows his excitement as if he's expressing himself through fighting. The Senrai Nano symbiotic suit is infused with Ardrek's skin, and when he calls it upon command, the designs on the suit are blood red while the exterior is black. He is of the prestige of Raylagar, a young man from the kingdoms of Raylagar. He stands determined on the cliff of Monster Island looking to the horizon. This is Ardrek, the prestige of Raylagar, the perfect image of Prodigy Inc. Ark, one of the most talented minds of Raylagarian Session Tech conglomerate, and most trusted to be the sole representation of Prodigy Inc. Ardrek's superiority in excelling his physical and mental traits and intense training is what attracted Prodigy Inc. to the young man. So, with the king preoccupied with pressing matters, Ardrek has been tasked by Arabia to go out to protect the ones he considers friends while keeping track of current events out in the world. So, with Ardrek would come this Session Tech conglomerate, which is a totally new faction from Raylagar that would essentially be, allying with Jacob and Havengard to come defend it. I saw it as just another faction coming to assist against Jason Hunter. There was already so much going on, I actually decided to leave that out. And I didn't want him to just come and be, I feel like if he appeared, I would have to explain where he's coming from, why he's coming from, why Raylagar is helping out. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, there's something going on with Raylagar already between R-Type and Star Rift and the politics going on within Raylagar. There's some things going on with the throne in Raylagar, and this is alluded to by Vinryusai Ali in her part when they catch up with R-Type. So it would have just been too much. I didn't feel it was a good time. I usually pride myself on being able to fit everybody in, but that was such a cluster of many people in that particular scene already, that I didn't want to muddy it up with anything more external factions. So I actually left Ardrek out. It might be better for Ardrek to come in a story option, or a event that is a bit more open to newcomers. There's so much tied to allying with Haven Guard and Gate for a new person, that wasn't, if you're not with Gate or Haven Guard, your reason has to be a bit more tied to and aligned to what they're doing. So that's why I didn't go that direction. So Circuit, while all this battle is happening with Nox, Jigsfree is a scientist, an alchemist pretty much, who we get a glimpse of, and he goes back and forth with Jared, and he ends up being the reason that they're able to take out Jason Hunter. In Circuit, he's successful in doing what he's doing and assisting with the strategies and helping Aurora, who's a strategist, using his technology and cyber knowledge. The thing with Circuit, though, the player had a question. He asked, Circuit hacked Anarchy and Nox and stole info from them. How much info did he steal? And on what? He also asked, Circuit stole a ton of data from Anarchy and Nox. Does that mean that Haven Guard has the tech to build Nox power suits and replicas of the Fist of the Endless? So I asked for people to come up with objectives, and Circuit in particular, he had a more than one objective. So I wrote out some rewards, and I'm just going to ask Circuit to choose one. But I did say that I did allow you to get data from Anarchy and Atlas. But I'm going to ask you to choose which reward you want, because technically when you had submitted it, you had a few things there, a little bit more than just one objective. So for example, you had Circuit will use his cyber potence in 3 areas of cyberspace, which will hurt Anarchy, Atlas Corp, and Nox Corp. He will download all the data Anarchy has. He will do the same to Nox Corp. Circuit will use this data and reconfiguration to transfer all of Atlas Corp's money into Haven's Gate. So it was multiple objectives. And I had to narrow it down to a few things. So I made it seem like you were doing some things prior to when Nox came. So that's why I said you hacked Atlas, and you were able to hack Anarchy because of everything that happened. Maybe you were notified when their defenses went down that they were vulnerable. So I'll let you get a little from there. And of course, you were able to affect Nox. But as far as rewards go, because I'm not going to reward you for 3 separate objectives when you're just supposed to have one, I'll let you choose. and I'll go over that when we go over the rewards. But to your question about Circuit stole a ton of data from Anarchy and Nox, does that mean that Haven Guard has the tech to build Nox power suits and replicas of the Fist of the Endless? I'm going to say no. One of the options, you'll be able to create a variation of the Nox suit if you want. It won't be identical, it'll be different. And the Fist of the Endless, I'm going to say no to that. I more so look at it as Anarchy's base went down and, you were notified. But as far as that secret schematic that was hidden in there and was only discovered because of the ultimate thievery that Genova had, I'm going to say that you didn't see that or know that that was there. Since Circuit stole, and another question was, since Circuit stole Nox's tech, does that mean that Haven Gate Alliance can recreate weapons like the neutralization grenade? I'm going to say that didn't happen. Circuit did not steal Nox tech. Circuit was able to disable Nox a bit, put some porn in his headset, but there was no Nox tech stolen. I didn't even put that in the episode. But I'm sure that if Circuit were to team up with Jarrett, between them two, they could probably come up with some pretty sick things. Hell, even Vimius. So the scene with Jigsfree, I like those kind of characters, right? They're not directly involved, but they can have an effect. And I thought that Jarrett and Jigsfree would probably bicker a lot because they're both super smart, both fighting for what they had, how much they were involved in their success and taking credit for certain things, arguing over science things. I had Jarrett arguing about things that he knows about and Jigsfree rebuttaling with things that he knows about, just making up some nonsense. If you go to Jigsfree's page, you see the description of his character. He seems like a slob, so that's why I just pictured him in I just picture Jack Black in sweatpants and holding a chili cheese dog. Excuse me. But anyway, they were successfully able to get Haven Gate out. Jarrett created this particular room just for Tempus to be able to perform the ultimate sleight of hand trick, and that was part of Tempus's whole plan. And we'll dive into Tempus when we do the story options. But Tempus is able to use this room, which amplified his time ability, and use sleight of hand mixed with some time manipulation and Jarrett's technology to teleport the entire base out of harm's way. So rewards, Jarrett, you were successful. Of course, you go back to average rank. The item that you get is a lost wrench, +1 odds to success in creating mechs, MECHS. As long as you have this lost wrench, if you were to use a story option to create a mech, you would have higher chances of succeeding. Keyword, unprecedented. So you can attach that unprecedented keyword to any of your abilities, which should be able to result in some great things that have never been made before, hence unprecedented. Killjoy, you go from average to above average. Your item is Benedict's Blade. This is Judge Benedict's sword. You mentioned that your sword is made of the same stuff that his was, which made me think that there's some history there. So as a result of that, since Judge Benedict is dead and you're finally meeting Tempus, maybe a conversation was had on the side, and Tempus kept Judge Benedict's sword, and he handed it to you, or you took it upon yourself to take it. I would like to hear if there is any link between you and Judge Benedict for you to have swords that are made from the same stuff. But you have an item, Benedict's Blade. It's a sentient floating sword. Okay, so that's yours now. Do what you will with that. You saw what he could do with that in past episodes. It helped him a lot. It was pretty darn viable. And the keyword that you get is ice. So you can attach it to any of your abilities. The keyword is ice. Do what you will with that. Colonel Ty Lee, you go from below average to average rank. The item that you get is Haven Gate Beacon. Haven Gate Beacon. You can be present as a clone to assist any Haven Gate ally, granting a +1 bonus to their odds of success. So by you having this Haven Gate Beacon, you can assist your allies or a ally with the bonus of odds to their success by being present as a clone. So you can be doing your own thing, and you can have a clone assisting another player. And the keyword that you get is decoy. You can attach that to any of your abilities, but decoy should justify you being a very effective distraction and or decoy in any capacity. Jigs free, you go from average to above average. The item that you get is Jared's special microwave. We'll just say this is a microwave that Jared created just for you as a gift. Or you won it from a bet. Maybe there was a bet that y'all had and you won. Jared's microwave makes your food taste better, stimulating your mind. You get a +1 to odds when assisting others with your chemicals. As long as you're eating in the scene that you submit, as long as you put somewhere in the details that you're eating, and your whatever you're eating is something that you heated up with Jared's microwave, you'll get a +1 to the odds of helping someone when you're using your chemicals. So how Aurora was able to use your chemicals to help take out Jason Hunter, things like that. You'll get a bonus to odds in helping if they're using your chemicals, but you got to be stimulated on a full stomach with something you heated up in Jared's microwave. This will be on your character sheet. Hopefully I didn't confuse you with that, but a lot of these abilities and keywords and items are just to supplement your character and get you to play the way you want to play. You're not going to be a character that's going to be in front of people all the time. So why not give you something that's going to encourage you to assist in other ways? So like I said, if you're using your chemicals or having someone use your chemicals, if those chemicals were created by you and provided by you, and you had a nice lunch, everybody should be pretty good. The keyword that you get is lethal. You can attach that to anything you want. Lethal is the keyword. You can imagine what you can do with a keyword like that. Aurora. You go from average to above average. The item that you get is a picture with Tempus. You're a big fan of Tempus. So for as long as Tempus is alive, you gain a +2 to odds of success just from his inspiration alone. He has the ability to affect people's willpower and emotions, so this makes sense. As long as Tempus is alive, you get a +2 odds to the success of all of your actions. That's big. As long as you have that picture with Tempus as well. Keyword combine. Combine is a keyword. You can attach that to anything you want. That can be used in many ways, however you want to interpret it. Combine. Circuit, you go from average to above average, and I want you to choose one of these items. Okay? You can either have half of Atlas fund. You can have half of Atlas funds. Half of Atlas funds. You always have half of Atlas's wealth until something is done about it. So whatever Atlas funds that Jeremiah has, you can consider that you have half of it, because that's going to simulate the fact that you're tapped in, you're hacked in. You may have some malware in there somewhere. You'll always be able to tap into his funds. You'll always have half. It's like y'all are divorced. The other two, I'm going to ask you to choose for the sake of fairness. You can have Anarchy's Code. Anarchy's Code is you'll always have a fraction of power over the new android race. So if you recall, there's a new race of androids because all the androids that have been shut down from Anarchy's mind being taken away, they have been filled with life from Ivan's Ikermancer. More on that later, but now all of the androids that used to be controlled by Anarchy and the Oracle are now filled with life force from the Void Realm, all under control of Ivan. So you can share that control with Ivan because you have Anarchy's code that you hacked into. There's a little bit of code in every android, which justifies you having some control. So you can have Anarchy's code and have a fraction of power over the new android race, which is a whole new race that's now added. If the player wants to come in and be an android, they are essentially a life force, a life being from a previous lifetime, but now in the body of an android. But you're under the control of Ivan, of course, because you are but life force, and they will be under control as you as well. So any new player who comes in as an android, they're gonna be tied to you and Ivan, if you choose that item. The other item is Nox Neosuit Schematic, a schematic that you have acquired from hacking Nox's suit. You got a little bit of information, but it will allow you to build your own version for yourself or another. This is going to be a variation of the suit, and you won't be able to build it with yourself. You don't have an ability like that, but you could definitely use your abilities to assist, get someone else to help you with that. Anarchy's Fist Schematic as well. You can choose that. A weapon to cause great necrotic decay. So I take that back. You can actually also choose to have a schematic of Anarchy's Fist. I'll give you that. And this is a weapon that will cause necrotic decay. Necrotic decay. Because remember, the origin of the Fist of the Endless is necrotic in nature. So the information that Anarchy would have gotten from that is information on necrotic power, necrotic decay. Get someone to help you create that, and that can become its own thing. So you get half of Atlas funds, and then you get to choose one of those other three. Jump in, reach out to me in Discord if you have any questions about that. The keyword that you get is benevolence. Benevolence. You can attach it to whatever you want. Benevolence is the keyword. I feel like your character is a good guy, and I would like to see what you do with that. For example, maybe when you're hacking something, you can hack it and make it so that they're benevolent or a good person or a good android or something like that by way of your hacking. Vimius, you go from average to above average. The items that you get is Mason Mart shampoo. You get there's a -1 rank shift to those who oppose you, who do not have hair as beautiful as your purple mane. So if you're going against someone and their hair is not as beautiful and remarkable as your shiny purple mane, they get a natural -1 rank shift to their rank. The keyword that you get is teamwork. You can attach teamwork to whatever you want. Teamwork is the keyword. Tempus, you go from high to exceptional. You're in the exceptional club now. The item that you get is Stabilization Room. This is something that exists within Haven Gate. By resting in this room from time to time, it restores your mental and physical health back to a set age, at whatever age you want to be set back to. I say this because obviously all that teleporting eventually is going to start having some debilitating effects depending on what's going on in the story. But now you have this room to kind of fix things if things start getting out of control. If you have a player who wants to, and they're fighting Tempus, and they might say something in the details, because remember, it's all about details. Whatever details you put in there is what happens unless it's contested. Someone can say, hey, if I'm going against Tempus, he fucking has a stroke when I fight him because he's going to use time manipulation and he's going to have a stroke. That person can say that, and it could happen, which could mess your health up. You go into the stabilization room after a stroke or two, and that issue will go away. Keyword, for your sleight of hand ability, Haven Gate. So with your sleight of hand, obviously you'll be able to do things with Haven Gate that you can do with a handkerchief. Yeah, that should be interesting. And I want to use this, since there's nothing in here. The other event was called Vacation. Okay, Vacation. You were on a vacation with allies and close friends of yours, or solo, catching some Nibu sun. You live a rough and tough life in Haven, so this was a much needed getaway. However, your vacation takes a turn for the worse when suddenly the sky turns purple over the capital city, seen from miles and miles away. Not only that, but some gunfire and commotion stirs up within the resort you're in. Vacation is over. Your objective is to overcome any incoming adversity and make sure that whatever is important to your character remains safe and unharmed. So that event was put there because that was going to be for any of the new players who wanted a neutral approach, and I was going to use that to get them into the mix. So that vacation resort, that would have been the small town where Tempus was and the Rebel Gate agents were held up at. If you were to take that event, you would be in the mix of that, either helping or doing whatever you want. That's why I said vacation is over. Your objective is to overcome any incoming adversity. So that means anything harmful to you, you would need to overcome that and make sure that whatever is important to your character remains safe and unharmed. So if you're a type of character who wanted to protect civilians caught in the gunfire, that would be your purpose. If you wanted to help Tempus and Ninja, that would be your purpose. If you were opposed to the Gate, if you hated Gate for bringing all that drama to your vacation to that little town, you can get involved that way. But no one actually took that event. So I just wanted to highlight that. But whenever there are events, keep in mind that there's a bigger purpose for them outside of what it just says. But I try to keep it vague so I can find ways to fit you in and not pigeonhole you to one particular cause.